Dr. Deirdre Butler, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. It's great to be here, and what's even more inspiring is the fact that the panel that went before were actually the students and the student voice, because I think that's what we're here for. We have a moral imperative to make sure that the world they actually enter is a world that they can grow and thrive in. And that's our job. That's our call to action. And that's what this is, because this is our opportunity to ensure that this happens. This isn't working, I'll use this, okay? This I really believe in. I think he was a man of great courage. I think it is a way that we can actually change the world. It's our opportunity. We need to actually engage with it. This is the question I want people to consider. What is the future? What is the digital strategy, and how will it support my learning? That's what this student is asking. You saw this yesterday. This is what's happening in the world now. This is the skills trend that's developing. This is what we're looking for. This is what's in demand. Are our schools living up to this? This is the type of school perhaps a lot of us inherited. It was meant for a generation where we were being prepared for a very different world, an extremely different world. However, when you consider our classrooms now, are we actually using the same mindset? Or are we actually changing what we do? I think the reason we're having a lot of difficulties is, and I just put this slide up so people can consider, because people are saying, why are we having such difficulty changing? And I think if we just look at this is a brief overview of generations, what has happened in different generations. And I just want you to look and concentrate on the speed, the rate of change, and how different things are actually coming into us. At this stage, it has speeded up so fast, it's no wonder we're having difficulties trying to deal with it. This is just a snapshot of all the different the bits of software that's flooding us every day. We can never keep up with it. Now we have devices, they're ubiquitous. We have the cloud. I always sort of refrain from using the nice fluffy clouds, because I don't think it's a fluffy environment. I think there's lots of things we have to look at, we have to really examine. There's the safety issues, there's the data, there's the privacy. They're all things we have to actually deal with. But I think when you put the three together and you're looking at the sort of the power of the software, the cloud, the ubiquitous nature of the devices, I think we're at a tipping point. I really feel at this stage, and I'm getting that excited feeling, that I think we actually can do something now that we couldn't do 30 years ago. Lots of us have been around for a long time in this space, sort of, in a lonely space, when everybody's kept thinking, oh yeah, keep taking the tablets, you'll be okay, it'll go away. It's a phase. It's not. It's here. We have to deal with it, and we actually have to grasp it by the neck and say, what are we going to do? And we have to keep focusing on that moral imperative. Those students that are in our schools now, in 2014, are we actually preparing them for a world where they will be living full, potential, exciting lives in 2030, in a world where they are in control and they're deciding their own learning goals and furthering their own futures? So what we try to do here is, I think the system needs to change. And my big question to you is, how? You're going to have to now, this is your turn to actually engage. This is your call to action. There's a huge wealth of talent in the room here. Really, really enthusiastic people who are actually behind this and really want to make it happen. So what we try to do is, as you say, the crowdsourcing. Everybody, it'll be a bit manic. We're going to actually try and manage it as best we can. Everybody will have a voice. There's a person at the table who's going to take responsibility for just moving the conversation along. It's going to be basically based around 3 big questions. We leave a 4th open. We're going to have, and Enda's going to explain it now, how we're going to have sort of Padlet boards where we can actually see responses in real time. We want people to engage. We want them to think. This is going to be hard fun, okay? We're going to actually try and get those opinions bubble to the top so that we can actually say, this is what we mean by our call to action. This is what we want to do, okay? We are going to have a timer. It's going to actually sort of, go bit by bit. We will actually have a discussion, then another discussion. We'll have a video. And I have a whole heap of people here who are going to help out. We're going to have rapporteurs at the end. So this is real, as we say, learning in action. Okay? And Enda is going to explain now the process. These are the people who are going to be really engaged with us, okay, for the brainstorming and the breakout. And this is how we actually are hoping that it will happen. Okay?
Let's find out. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. You definitely know you're at an education event when the teachers give you a group work activity that you have to do. So we're going to get into it as quickly as possible. What we're going to do, Deirdre has told you most of it actually, we're going to have 4 questions. 3 of them are going to take a little bit kind of longer time and more of your thought. The 4th one's an open one. We openly acknowledge that these are very big questions and we're not expecting to have all the answers in 9 minutes, which is why we're using the approach we're using, and it's going to stay open, and we'll explain a little bit about that now. We're going to use an app. I always feel when you come to an education technology event or a conference, you should be using some of the education technology. This is a lovely one. It's one of my favorite ones. It's called Padlet. And one of the reasons I really like this one, it's what I call a bridging app, really, because it takes something that a lot of people understand, moves it into a digital kind of area, and then once you've got there, you can kind of whoosh forward with all you can do with it. It's basically digital sticky notes, is what it is, okay? So what's going to happen is we're going to use these Padlet boards. A rapporteur has been appointed to each table, and that might not be the way it was at the start, because I know there was a little bit of movement and everything, but we'll keep going anyway. We're going to ask each table to post at least 2 responses to the Padlet boards. Now, I'm going to give you the links to all of those in a second. We're going to ask the rapporteur to kind of, I have on the slide here, to do the posting. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but just to make sure the posting happens. We welcome feedback from everyone. We really want to hear as much as possible about this, and then we'll have a kind of a group summation at the end, hopefully, when we get there. Okay? Your first question, and also I'll just say Connor and Alison and Margaret are passing out some handouts at the moment which also have the questions, because we're going to be moving between the slides and the screens quite a bit. So the first question, the ongoing development of ICT infrastructure in Ireland demands a concerted and coordinated effort across all the stakeholders in education. How can DES and its agencies best support schools to procure and install the most appropriate IT infrastructure? That's the first question we want you to think about. If anybody has a QR code scanner on their phone or their tablet or whatever, I've seen them going up already, lovely. All right, point it at that, scan it, and that's going to take you to the first Padlet wall. If you don't have a QR code scanner, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to tweet out the link in a second, and some of you will pick it up that way. And the third way, if you don't have it, is that URL at the bottom, tinyurl.com/excitedIRL1. Any of those mechanisms will bring you to our first Padlet wall. Okay, now we're going to circulate for the first one to make sure that everybody's okay with getting this started. QR code, URL, and I'm about to tweet it in a second to get us started as well. Okay, good luck. We're going to start the timer now.
Excellent.
9.
And I deliberately kept it really straight.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, bang on. Bang on. I'm broadcasting now. Right, I'm going to tweet that.
Okay.
Okay, 5 minutes. I think one thing before you start speaking, actually, because I want to explain that the URL is only one letter or number at the end. Okay, thank you very much. The game show host, yes. Question 2, here is your feedback. Thank you very much for it. Before we move on to question 3, in case people haven't figured it, because I know there's a bit of kind of getting the URL, it's simply the number at the end that is changing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you don't need to type the whole one all over again for 3. Just change the number at the end to 3, hit enter, and you have the wall for number 3. But I'll put up the code again in a second. We're going to do this one slightly differently. Deirdre is going to tell you a little bit about how we're going to handle this one. In fact, I'll just hand over to you, Deirdre, and you can take it from here.
Okay. This is the question that I would really like people to, we're going to change the format, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a video. Some of the kids are outside. It's from the school, a small 3-teacher school in Kilkenny. Some of you may have seen the video before. It's a few years old, and that's what's really impressive as well, is the fact that this is what these kids were doing 6-7 years ago. Okay, I've had the privilege of working with these teachers in a group called Empowering Minds since 1998. That's when we first started using the robotics technologies, and everybody thought we were mad. But we were using them in a way that was sort of science meets narrative, and using it and capitalizing on the storytelling is what we do best as Irish people. And there's a range of projects. This video is from one group. Okay, the video, and what I want you to think of is, how should students use digital technologies in their learning? What is appropriate? That's the key question. So instead of talking about it afterwards together, I want you to be actually responding to the Padlet boards and that as you're looking at it, to see, does this resonate with what you see as what's important in student learning? Okay. Just a tiny background, it started off with a story in Don Quixote. The kids were actually reading the novel in school, and when it came to the point where he was running against the windmills, the kids said, windmills? Windmills? What's windmills? Okay, so that began a whole investigation, and the teacher picked up on it, Tommy Marr, and he began to run with the idea. And from that, they began to develop a whole project steered by the kids as to what is wind, what's windmills, where are they used, and the questions just kept building. This is a video that was made by one of those groups. They're called the Jennies. The Jennies were looking after a particular thing. They were investigating building windmills and how are they built, and actually wind power. And you'll notice different things. Notice sometimes the kids are wearing school uniforms, sometimes they aren't. And I'll tell you why. Look at they're actually working in groups. They're actually working with people in the community. They're actually moving beyond the school as well, and they're actually going to visit things in action. So have a look and see what you think. And begin to, as I should say, sorry, this is question 3, okay? Here's your QR code. And again, it's the tiny URL. It's just the only thing that changes is the 3 at the end. And Enda is tweeting it out as well. So is everybody ready to go? So this is just a different format. You can respond yourself. We will give you 2 minutes at the end as well if you just want to say something as a table and put it up. Is that okay? I can't get my mouse to go. Oh, there it is there. I think I have my sound on mute still. No, I don't. Yeah, it's okay. Sorry for this. It's just that we muted it so many times when we were trying it out.
First of all, we needed to find out how wind turbines are built and how they work. A good place to start was our local library.
Where's the wind strongest?
At the top of the hill or at
next to it.
Try click the top. Yeah.
Yes, the wind is strongest at the top of the hill. When the wind meets the hill, it is pushed upwards and gains speed as it is compressed.
Here we are, the Sculnae Fiacra intrepid scientists, down looking at the rich field turbines run by electricity.
I want it to stop, so we just click OK.
So it starts slowing down then.
Yeah, it's starting to stop now. We should be able to see the RPM on the generator will come down. But our revolutions per minute were about 1,800. And there you can see that it's dropping down. And everybody else outside is going to be able to see the blades will stop slowly. And
We read all about wind turbines in books. Now we wanted to see for ourselves how they really operate. We hoped we didn't have to go all the way to the top.
I'm standing at the edge of a wind turbine and the reading is 10 or 11 meters per second.
A girl from our county council said that there could be flickering effects on houses nearby. Will that happen here?
so here we don't have it, but where we do have it, we control the turbine and we tell it to stop when it's causing flicker effect.
So it won't cause it?
It doesn't cause it. Now, see the way it was kind of a brownish red?
Yeah.
That meant remote stop. Now it's green. That means the system's okay.
Some of us wound 4 coils of wire for our electromagnetic turbine. Magnets will pass over the coils to generate electricity. Meanwhile, the others were building upright supports for our rotating turbine.
That's the job, nice and tight, great stuff. Look at that.
The turbine is beginning to take shape. Now we need to make sure the same pole of each magnet is facing towards the coils. We tested the polarity of the magnets using our multimeter.
We're going to turn it to 200 millivolts.
Okay. Now is it a bit higher?
No, 8 to 46.
On our wind turbine, there is a rotation sensor, and the rotation sensor measures the RPM. The program runs for 15 seconds. The rotation sensor counts 16 per revolution. When the rotation sensor reaches 16, it adds 1 to the counter and then resets itself. Then it multiplies the counter figure by 4, and then we get the RPM value.
We collect the weather meter daily to upload data. We dock the meter to the PC, open the Kestrel software and upload.
We import the data into a template Excel file, save it under a new name and graph the data. We are interested in the wind speed frequency and the wind speed readings.
It's going really fast.
Yeah,
see if I
cover
can.
it.
Yeah, it's slowing down.
Slows.
And then if I just take a bit of the shadow off again. There could be 2 problems there. One is that we're not getting the sun, and the other is that the wires are wrong. So, do you want to try the wires again then? Switch them round.
No, great.
Yeah, going straight away. These solar panels here are connected in series. They turn this motor here, which turns the worm gear. The worm gear slows it down but also makes it more powerful, and turns this gear here, which makes the wheels turn.
This was the first time the car worked for us. We used our hands for brakes.
Looking at this video and seeing the range of activities and how it was actually done in the school, that project extended over several months. The reason they were investigating as well the wind energy was actually to try and find out, could they decrease the amount of money they were spending on electricity, etc., in their school because they were working towards the green flag. on energy saving. And they tried to look at the wind and see could they have their own wind generator. They nabbed the guy at the Young Scientist who actually was in the meteorological office to find out this big mathematical formula for working out wind speeds, etc. So that's what they were explaining to their parents at the open evening that they had. Wind generation was not an option in the school for where it's located. So they began to investigate the solar option. The reason for the difference in uniforms and civies, let's say, is the fact that the kids were working towards a parent evening where they wanted to produce their results. They were also working towards the Young Scientists where they want to actually demonstrate what they were doing. They actually themselves stood back. They actually said, we're not going to get this finished if we're only actually working in school hours. So we need to actually work out a rota. So they actually worked themselves and said, okay, I go to Irish dance and I do soccer, you do this, you do this. Okay, can we actually come together? They live in a rural community, so they organised their parents to drop off and pick up. And then when they'd all that organised, they went to Tommy, the teacher, and said, can you open the school at these times for us? Okay? So that was sort of self-determined learning and kids setting their own goals. When you look at the video that they made afterwards to describe their learning, should that be the assessment? I'm asking you those questions. Okay, we know it's very small. You could have a whole conference on this. Can you actually now, reflecting on that and what you think yourself about student learning and digital technologies, can you post something in 2 minutes? Or maybe, is that okay?
Yeah, I think two.
2. I know it's something, but I just want initial reactions. And the question is to remind people, up above.
It's way behind. I'm 100% agree. Lovely. Thanks, Deirdre. Wow. Okay. Thank you very much. We know that wasn't an enormous amount of time, but you can appreciate we're running a little bit over, so we want to try and pull things back. Thank you very much for that. To make one very important point, 2 very important points actually, the Padlet boards will remain open. They're not locked just because the timer has stopped. So if something occurs to you later on in the day, go back to the URL, the links are in Twitter, add your comments as much as you want. The second one, I don't know if any of you noticed from the Twitter feed, there are people at home watching this and actually contributing to it as well. And they're watching it in real time in the exact same way. So that's it's a nice app, Padlet, to be able to use. We're going to move on to the 4th one. And at this point, I think I'm just going to hand you over to Deirdre because we're going to improvise a little bit for this one now because of time. And here it is. Looking at the wrong screen.
That's okay. This question here really is not something that we can answer like the other questions, in 2 minutes or 3 minutes or a day or a week. I think this is the question that we need to focus on going away from here. This is what I'm asking people to look at and examine, and this is our call to action. We actually need a holistic vision and policy for the use of digital technologies in Irish education. How can this be achieved? How do we join the dots? How do we actually capitalise on the power that's in this room across the country? And how many other places would you be on a bank holiday, glorious Saturday, and have this many committed people in the room? So I want to be able to say to policymakers and everything else, we have the people, we are dedicated, we are behind it. You need to make the brave step. You need to, as Lord Putnam said yesterday, you need to be able to be courageous and be brave, okay? So the rapporteurs are their job has been daunting. You got little time, they got really, really small time. And I have three wonderful people here. We have Conor Galvin, we have Alison Egan, and we have Margaret Leahy. And they're going to, in literally a minute and a half, give you a broad flavour of what came through the boards in those three questions. And then we're just going to do a really snappy 30 seconds wrap up, and then we have lunch, okay? So question one.
Thanks, Deirdre. Question one was really about the infrastructure, and the three common themes emerged from all the tables. One was about a national system for tech support, and be that centralised, be it in a cluster where schools would all avail of a cluster for tech support, that there would be published technical standards so that you're not just going out buying your own kit because you got funding. And that one table raised that ICD advisors are being sorely missed. Yet the flip side to that was other tables said they didn't want one solution for all. So a consensus on that would be key. In terms of infrastructure there, then it was all about Wi-Fi everywhere. And that connectivity, this is my favourite quote of the day, connectivity needs to be like water, always running. And then I added, but without the meter. And we need PowerPoints, as in, plugs, but not PowerPoint. So I thought that was a good wrap up. And then to train the teachers, this came up as well in terms of infrastructure, that teachers are considered part of the infrastructure, but I'll let the CPD question, I'll leave that to Conor.
Okay, and I'll take up from there, Deirdre, if that's okay. There wasn't anything like the same level of consensus when it came to the issue of CPD. A lot of different messages coming from different tables. But there was a kind of a sense coming out of the overall flow. Training balanced with kind of fear, balanced with a growing ease, which is some teachers are much more confident than they were previously, but there's still gaps out there. The comment was made that a lot of good CPD is already happening, not to underestimate what is already going on. And I thought that was quite interesting. So in terms of trying to pull it together, I'd say under the notion of CPD itself, if you take the continuing aspect of it, a lot of comments about how and when it should start. It should start very early, the early stages of college training, the PGDE as it's called, or as it's now becoming the 2-year masters at second level. It should be in career, for career, all career. I thought it was a lovely quotation. I don't know who said it, but full marks for that. It should be real. It should be connected with things that can be done in the classroom on an ongoing basis. And the example that came up there was Lego. He gave the L sign, okay, and also e-twinning. They're the two that were mentioned as CPD built around those are particularly useful to teachers because they are usable in the short term. The final thing then, with regard to professional, there was a comment out there, it should be compulsory. I'll hold judgment on that one, but I think it's something we need to talk about. It should be respectful, is another word that was used by a number of teachers. It should be respectful of what teachers actually bring to. It's not as if you're working with empty vessels and blank slates. Teachers bring huge amounts of ability and capability with them. That should be acknowledged and used and worked with rather than assuming it's not there at all. Where is our online COP? Where are the online communities of practice that would actually support the ongoing development that's actually needed? I thought that was interesting also. With regard to development, individual development, but also school level development. Doing your work in your school with your colleagues is seen as one of the most successful ways of actually bridging the gap between what we need to do and what we're actually doing. And then finally, the system level, Stuff about the department, we're not there yet. We're far away from it, but we're nearer than we were. So, in summary, do it kind of with teachers, not to teachers, and stop the stop-start nature of what's passed for CPD in the past. Done.
Thank you. And question 3, who had the shortest time, was Margaret in student learning.
And we'll give the quickest feedback. The overriding message that came out of this was, sorry, what was my question again? Sorry, just apologies. I was looking at student use of digital technology in their learning. So the overriding message that came out of that was that students see technology simply as a tool in their learning. It's just something that they use as part of their learning. So there was 2 slightly different messages that arose out of that. The first was, should we let students then decide what technology should be used? In other words, what technology is fit for purpose depending on what they do? So should we give students the autonomy to choose that? Or there was an equally strong trend that said, well, teachers need to look and see what technologies we are, if you like, supplying or letting children use in school, and that we should look for technologies that have a low floor and a high ceiling. In other words, we choose technologies that are easy to get started on and easy for students to use and easy for students to have success with. And then that it's possible to work on increasingly sophisticated projects. In other words, moving towards the high ceiling. Third point was that we should be looking for real life problems. A lot of people spoke about that in relation to the windmill video that you saw, that the teaching and learning in school should be based around those problems that students can work to provide solutions. And finally, we need to use technology to facilitate inquiry-based learning. Someone said that there was a great description of the various phases of the project that you saw there, from the design to the implementation to the review, and they noted that the teacher wasn't featured once in that video, that the teacher was a true facilitator of the learning there rather than directing it step by step. And they were the main points that came out of the third question.
Thank you. I think the rapporteurs did a fantastic job at being able to capture what was on those boards and actually report back. Please, please keep posting to the board, because it's the one time that we can actually gather the evidence and show this is what people are thinking. The reason I put this up here is because I had the privilege of actually studying and working with this man. Most of you in the room may know him, Seymour Papert. He started this struggle a long time ago and believed and was a great foreseer of what he thought could happen, okay? And if you read it here, it says his own philosophy is revolutionary. It's not reformist in its concept of change. In other words, it's not about tinkering. It's a revolution of ideas. It consists of new understandings, and I've bolded the things I think are important, of specific subject domains and new understandings of the process of learning itself. How do we learn? How do we support it? It consists of a new and much more ambitious setting of the sights of educational aspirations. And I think we all subscribe to this, because now we actually have the power at our fingertips. We are at that tipping point. And I think it's incumbent on us now to actually engage with this moral imperative, to make sure that learning in the future, that we actually build a learning society, that it's not confined within the school walls, but we actually build a learning society. And that's why the consultative paper was called Towards a Learning Society. So, I'm asking you this. Are we going to make that leap of faith? Have we got the courage? Do we have the mishnach, as Mag said last night? And I'm challenging the policymakers and our politicians to actually get behind us. We are committed people in this room. We are dedicated and we are morally convicted that this is the way to go. So I'm challenging the politicians and our policymakers. Help this happen. Okay? Because be the change you want to see in the world. Don't have it acted upon you. Be in control. And with that, thank you very much. Thank you to my wonderful people who helped out, and Enda, who kept all this plate spinning with the technologies and everything else, and most importantly, to you who actually participated. And let's join the movement and cause the revolution. Thank you.
you.